A New York City law that was put into place to prevent landlords from losing their properties due to tax liens during the pandemic actually is helping landlords. And now politicians and tenant advocates are upset because they claim deadbeat landlords are using it to get away with keeping their properties in bad shape. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over something that I don't cover very often, and that's a pandemic era law that actually helped landlords. Okay, so they put this law into place because landlords they face the prospect of losing their properties to tax seizure for not paying their property taxes by the state of New York or by New York City government, right? And so they were like, oh, well, we're going to put this into place because, some people have faced pandemic hardships. Some people aren't getting paid the rent that they're owed, and we don't want to take their properties away. Well, now they're saying, oh, well, this isn't right. Now these deadbeat landlords are keeping their properties in bad shape, and we can't seize them. We can't seize these landlords' properties. Well, I don't believe personally they should have ever been able to seize their properties, okay, for unpaid property taxes or whatever, because they're the ones who said that landlords cannot collect rent. They said that, okay? So don't blame the landlord if the landlord has an inability to pay their property taxes because they're not getting any rent. That's my gripe, okay? When I said that, a lot of these jurisdictions were still demanding their property tax money. Meanwhile, they were saying that landlords were unable to collect rent from their tenants. Well, what did you think was going to happen? Did you think that landlords are going to be able to pull this money out of thin air? No, we use rental income to pay our bills. Just like all businesses, we use our revenue in order to pay our bills. And if we don't have any revenue, we can't pay our bills. So when the government comes in there and steps in, says that, hey, landlords have no revenue, well, you know what? We're going to be unable to pay our bills. And that includes the property taxes. So then the government coming in and trying to seize those properties, man, it's frustrating. It is frustrating to know that this sort of thing was happening to landlords throughout the entire country. Some landlords were losing their properties. Landlords had their credit, their finances destroyed by the pandemic. So, yeah, it's nice to see that some landlords were able to get around this by a law they put in place that wasn't even necessarily to protect landlords, but to protect homeowners. And guess what? We are homeowners. So we got those protections as well. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So, did your municipality, your state, wherever you live during the pandemic, did they put protections in place for landlords, who were unable to pay their property tax bills because their tenants weren't paying rent? I don't think many places did that. I don't think that many places even thought that the landlords had any bills, and they were like, "Oh, well, the rental assistance will cover it." But the truth of the matter is, rental assistance did not cover it in many cases. And even these landlords who don't have their property seized by the government for not paying their property taxes, they still faced foreclosure from the banks. Okay, they still had all those other bills that accumulated, like insurance and maintenance, etc. Your person who's doing repairs on your property, they can put a lien on your property too for not paying them. Okay, so there's so many issues that were caused by this. This is why landlords were put into such financial distress. And I know I'm still talking about the pandemic. Here we are, almost every eviction moratorium in the entire country has ended, right? But these consequences and from these eviction moratoriums are going to last for years beyond even now. Okay, we don't even know all that's going to happen going a few years into the future. Some of the landlords were holding on just barely, and little changes to the economy can knock them out. Okay, so anyway, let's get into this article. This article is coming from Chelsea News, New York.com, and it says, City powerless to seize buildings from landlords who fail to pay property tax bills due to a COVID-era law. A law meant to protect small homeowners from losing their homes during the worst of the pandemic has stripped the city of the ability to use tax liens to seize properties from deadbeat landlords. One city council member is pushing a bill to put teeth back into property tax laws. I've never been one of those people who thought it was, oh yeah, it's awesome that the city can basically seize a property owner's property for not paying the property tax. Okay, that doesn't make much sense to me. We have a property over here that might be worth hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, but you have a property tax bill over here that is a few grand, and they're going to take your whole property so that they can pay that bill. Give me a break, okay? Anyway, let's get into the article. A policy change meant to save low income homeowners from losing their homes during the worst days of the pandemic has tied the city's hands when it comes to ensuring people pay their property taxes, experts say. The truth is that without a lien sale, there is very little the city can do easily to collect unpaid taxes. Anna Champini, vice president of the research at the Citizens Budget Commission, told Strauss News. But experts say some big multi home landlords are deliberately flaunting the law and not paying taxes. In one example, the owner of 131 West 70th Street, a 5-story brownstone listed by the Department of Finance as a one-family home, owes the city roughly $250,000 in unpaid taxes on the property, going back at least until 2019, according to public records. And that may be true, okay? Like, for example, you have this place here, they haven't paid taxes since the beginning of the pandemic, right? And they owe supposedly $250,000, but did the landlord receive rental income during that time? Or was the tenant inside that property protected by the city's eviction moratorium? Did the landlord receive rental assistance? Was the landlord ever made whole? Is the property under rent control where they couldn't ever recoup the money needed for necessary repairs? Basically, all these things are factors that determine whether this landlord should pay or not. And if I was the landlord and I had a tenant who didn't pay me rent for the entire time and I didn't get rental assistance and I am down hundreds of thousands of dollars, I would drag this out as long as possible. I would drag it out all the way, right? And the city can't take your property right now. Well, maybe that's the one thing that I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to pay these property taxes because if I do, I won't be able to pay my loan and the bank will take the property, But so no matter what, you're still in a bad situation. You still have this bill hanging over you, but at least you don't lose the property right now. And maybe a little bit more time will enable you to figure out something so that you can make it work. But man, like, we face the same hardships as the tenants. We face the exact same hardships, especially when the tenants weren't paying us. Yet they don't want to give us the benefit of the doubt. They don't want to give us the sympathy. And instead, they want to assume that we are doing this maliciously. No, it's not the case at all. The laws, rules, and regulations that the city of New York put in place are the reason that these landlords are not paying their property taxes. It's pretty simple. Unlike the types of owner-occupied buildings the council sought to spare when it ended the lien sale, the building is empty, boarded up, and racking up violations. It is outrageous that the owner, whomever he or she is, can just keep this building like this and not pay taxes, and nobody can do anything, said City Council member Gail Brewer, who represents the Upper West Side in the interview. The building's owner, Buttercup Management Corp., is registered at nearby West 75th Street address. According to city records reviewed by Strauss News, that is also the headquarters of PVP Management Corp., which owns 5 properties on East 6th Street, and Cade Management Corp., which owns the West 75th Street property. So they're saying that, oh, well, because the property is empty, that is the reason why they should go ahead and pay these property tax bills, right? And my argument is a little bit different. My argument is that, why is the property empty? Has the city made it so that they are unable to do repairs, updates, upgrades to this property and it be profitable because they would still be stuck under rent control laws? Okay? Or what's the real story behind it? That's what the question is, right? And if this company is unable to go in there, get this property rented out again because of all the regulations of the city, all of the zoning requirements, all the permits and fees required, and still make a profit, well, it might make sense that, hey, we're not paying our property taxes right now. So even if they didn't necessarily suffer under the pandemic, right? It's still the reason why that this building is sitting empty like it is due to these government regulations. It is due to the fact that New York has made it so difficult for property owners, developers, landlords to operate their businesses profitably. Okay, and then they probably will put this property on the list of, oh well, here's a landlord who's warehousing these units. No, they're not repairing the units right now, and they're hoping for a change in law, a change in rules and regulations in order to make it so that we can operate our businesses. Okay, man, like I stand up a lot for landlords in New York, even though I don't live there, right? But I see the way that things are going there, and I see that the same rules, the same laws and regulations, they're being spread throughout the rest of the country. And it's scary. What happens in New York eventually will happen here too. And you see the same kind of sentiments from the tenant groups. You see the same kind of politicians here who are fighting for the same sort of rules. And yeah, there's a growing support for this sort of thing. They don't understand the history behind why stuff like rent control doesn't work, why these socialist policies don't work, why too many regulations is not the solution to the problem. They don't see that kind of stuff. The only thing they can see is, well, my rent is high right now, and I want it to be cheap forever, because that's what a moron would do instead of looking up the history behind these kind of economic situations and what has happened in the past. It does not necessarily mean that we should go ahead and do that exact same thing again now, okay? So let me skip down a little bit. It says the end of tax lien sales, the sale of unpaid property tax debt to collectors, has left the city with few tools to enforce its property tax code, which accounts for roughly 1/3 of city revenue. So the real truth of the matter is, right, that property owners have figured out that the city's not going to take their properties away and then sell them if they don't pay their property taxes. And that has made the city very scared because it accounts for 1/3 of the city's revenue. That's big. That's a lot of money. Fortunately, right now, most property owners are still paying their taxes, right? But they probably have seen a significant drop all due to this rule they put into place after the pandemic, right? A rule that was meant to help property owners. And, it was a smart move to put that rule into place, in my opinion. Now, should they end the rule? Yeah, they should. But you can't blame the landlords who took advantage of the rules that they put into place and were able to get around their properties being seized and not have to pay any property taxes. You can't blame them because they are the ones who put that rule into place. Like I always laugh when they try to close little exceptions to their laws. Oh no, that isn't fair that the landlords do it. Like, yeah, we're gonna play the game that you created the rules to the game. We're going to play the game just like you want us to play. Okay. And no, it might not work out to your benefit, but that's the way we have to do things. Okay. So, yeah, interesting article. We'll see what happens with this. I'll provide an update if they change this rule anytime soon.